Hey, it's Meeting Jenny Lee, and I'm here with the next session from the Raw Contact Volume 2. This is the fourth video in the series. This is the third session that we'll be doing from the Volume 2 book. Today's session is session 59. This one takes place on June 25th of 1981. Oh, I'll be born in less than 2 months. Yay me. Where are the rest of my 80s babies at? All right. So, of course, Don starts out the session asking, can you tell me about the instrument's condition, which, of course, is Carla. Carla is the instrument. She's the person channeling. And why she feels so tired. It's an excellent question, because don't we all just feel so tired? Now, Carla's situation is going to be different, but Ross says the instrument's condition is previously stated. Don, you keep asking. Why do you keep asking? We cannot infringe upon your free will by discussing the latter query. They cannot tell them why she's tired because it goes against free will. Uh-oh. Don asks, would it be any greater protection for the instrument, Carla, if Jim, who's the other person in this group, who doesn't get talked about a lot because he is there for energetic support. As far as I know, he's pretty much just meditating the whole time, like holding space for Carla while she does this work. Don is the questioner, and Carla is the channeler, and Jim is there for energetic moral support. So Don asks, would it be any greater protection for the instrument if Jim changed his sitting position to the other side of the bed? Don's just throwing stuff out there, you know. Let's see what's going to work. Ross says, no. Jim has a question. Here's Jim's question. I think I have penetrated the mystery of my lifelong anger at making mistakes. I think I have always been aware subconsciously of my abilities to master new learnings, but my desire to successfully complete my mission on Earth has been energized by the Orion group into irrational and destructive anger when I fail. Could you comment on this observation? So remember, the Orion group is basically like the baddies. They're like the bad guys. They're the ones that are negatively polarized, and they're trying to keep Earth and everybody on it negatively polarized for their own benefit. So this is what Ross says. We suggest that as this entity, Jim, is aware of its position as a wanderer. So remember, a wanderer is someone who is actually a higher dimensional being, which Ra refers to as densities. So we're in the third density. We're trying to get to the fourth density. A wanderer could be a fourth, fifth, sixth density individual who has come to Earth to try to help us move up in our ascension process. That's what a wanderer is. So Jim is aware that he's a wanderer, which I think at least 2 of them in this group are, if not all 3 of them. And they're aware of that at this point. So Ra was saying, we should suggest that as this entity is aware of its position as a wanderer, it may also consider what pre-incarnative decisions it undertook to make regarding the personal or self-oriented portion of the choosing to be here at this particular time space. This entity is aware, as stated, that it has great potential, but potential for what? This is the pre-incarnative question. The work of 6th density is to unify wisdom and compassion. This entity abounds in wisdom. The compassion in its desirous of balancing has as its antithesis lack of compassion. In the more conscious being, this expresses or manifests itself as a lack of compassion for self. Not having compassion for yourself. We feel this is the sum of suggested concepts for thought, which we may offer at this time without infringement upon free will, Jim's free will. So they're saying that Jim is a sixth density wanderer, and he has a lot of wisdom. So the sixth density is all about wisdom and love being melded together. Like, how do you have wisdom and love? How do you bring them together? That's according to Ra, the purpose of the sixth density. So Ra's saying, Jim, you got a lot of wisdom, but you don't have enough compassion specifically for yourself. Don's next question is, at the end of the second major cycle, there was a few 100,000 people incarnate on Earth. There are over 4 billion incarnate today. So the cycle that they're talking about is, Ra had previously said that, I believe it's every 75,000 years, there's a chance for us to move up to the next density. And about 75,000 years ago, we had a chance to move up to 4th density, and we didn't. So now it's time for us to try it again. Around the time that this book is being written, Ross says it's around the time. And in about 30 years, I think, which would have been around 2011, is when we could start trying to move up to the next density, or people would souls would be moving up to the next density. There's the option for souls to move up to the next density, but there's also the option for the whole planet to move up to the next density, which there's been a lot of talk about constantly. It's, we refer to it as the shift. So anyway, let's reread what we had here. At the end of the second major cycle, there was a few 100,000 people incarnate on Earth. There are over 4 billion incarnate today. Probably a lot more than that, right? How many people do we have in the world now? Probably like 9 billion or something. Like, we doubled it from the 80s. Yikes. Were the other 4 billion people who are incarnate today, were they in the Earth planes but not incarnate at that time? Or did they come in from elsewhere during the last 25,000 year cycle? Oh, it's 25,000 years. Pardon me, 25,000? I didn't think 75,000 sounded right. 25. It's 25,000. That makes more sense. This is an excellent question, Don. Excellent question. Ross says there are 3 basic divisions of origin of these entities. Firstly, and primarily, those of the planetary sphere you call maldek. Okay. Maldek is supposed to be a planet that was between Mars and Jupiter in our solar system, clearly, that was blown up from its own devices. There was some sort of people living there, and then they blew themselves up. But they were not, well, and let's back up there for a second. The planet blew up, and that's what our asteroid belt is. So the people that were incarnate there hadn't gone through this 25,000 year cycle to be able to move up to the next level. So they had to be able to go somewhere else where there was also 3rd density, 3rd dimension. So guess what? Going to Earth. Having become able to take up 3rd density once again, because they went through a huge transition period. There's more to it in the first volume if you want to find it there. Were gradually loosened from self-imposed limitations of form. Secondly, there were those of other 3rd density entrants, or neophytes. Looks like I looked up that term, and it means novice, whose vibratory patterns matched the Terran, which means Earth, experiential nexus. So there were other entities that matched our frequency, our density. These then filtered in through incarnative processes. So they came here too. But he doesn't really say from where. Thirdly, in the past, approximately 200 of your years, you have experienced much visiting of the wanderers. So there's a lot more people of higher density coming in to try to help us out. That was saying over the last 200 years. So, you know, probably almost 250 years now. Just to clarify that, could you tell me approximately how many total mind-body-spirit complexes, remember that's people, were transferred to Earth at the beginning of the last 75,000 year period? Oh, now there is a 75,000 years. Well, now I'm totally confused. Because I said 75,000 at first, but then there was 25,000. But now I'm confused. I don't remember. I'm just going to be honest. I don't remember from the first book. I could have sworn it was 75,000 years was the cycle that is needed to go from one density to the other. But perhaps there's a smaller cycle that I'm not remembering. We're just going to leave it at that. The transfer, as you call it, has been gradual. Over 2 billion souls are those of Maldek, which have successfully made the transition. And then I wrote, wow. And this is very interesting because someone that I've been talking to recently came across this information in a completely different way and feels like they have a connection to Maldek. So, yeah. I mean, 2 billion souls. Approximately 1.9 billion souls have, from many portions of the creation, entered into this experience at various times. The remainder are those who have experienced the first 2 cycles upon this sphere, or who have come in at some point as wanderers. Some wanderers having been in this sphere for many thousands of your years, others having come far more recently. I'm trying to understand the 3 spirals of light. So Don's switching up the questions now. The 3 spirals of light in the pyramid shape. I would like to question on each. So we're going back to the pyramid information. The first spiral starts below the Queen's Chamber and ends in the Queen's Chamber. Is that correct? That is incorrect. The first notion of upward spiraling light is that of the scoop, the light energy being scooped in through the attraction of the pyramid shape through the bottom or the base. Thus, the first configuration is a semi-spiral. Got that? Would this be similar to the vortex you get when you release the water from a bathtub? Interesting question. This is correct, except that in the case of this action, the cause is gravitic, from gravity, whereas in the case of the pyramid, the vortex, in which the upward spiraling light being attracted by the electromagnetic fields engendered by the shape of the pyramid. Then the first spiral after the semi-spiral is the spiral used for study and healing relative to the Queen's Chamber position. Where does the first spiral begin and end? The spiral, which is used for study and healing, begins at or slightly below the Queen's Chamber position, depending upon your earth and cosmic rhythms. It moves through the King's Chamber position in a sharply delineated form and ends at the point whereby the top approximate third of the pyramid may be seen to be intensifying the energy. So remember, we're talking about the Great Pyramid of Giza is the pyramid that they're referring to, but you can really take that pyramid shape and apply any pyramid shape and apply it. But the King's Chamber, Queen's Chamber is referring to the positions of the King's Chamber, Queen's Chamber in the Great Pyramid at Giza. But just, scale that to any size pyramid, and those chambers could be in those same positions. That's what they're talking about. Now, the first spiral is obviously different somehow than the second and third spiral, since they have different uses and different properties. The second spiral then starts at the end of the first spiral and goes up, I assume, to the apex of the pyramid. Is that correct? This is partially correct. The large spiral is drawn into the vortex of the apex of the pyramid. However, some light energy, which is of the more intense nature of the red, shall we say, end of the spectrum, is spiraled once again, causing an enormous strengthening and focusing of energy, which is then of use for building. So the first part of the spiraling lights for healing and learning, but then the strengthening of the spiral and the strengthening of the light and the energy can be used for building things. And then the third spiral radiates from the top of the pyramid. Is this correct? The third complete spiral does so. This is correct. It is well to reckon with the foundation semi-spiral, which supplies the prana for all that may be affected by the three following upward spirals of light. So the semi-spiral at the bottom of the base is the foundation, which supplies the energy for the whole rest of the spiral. Now I'm trying to understand what happens in this process. I'll call the first semi-spiral 0 position and the other three spirals 1, 2, and 3. That works, Don. That works. The first spiral being study and healing. What changes take place in light from the 0 position into the first spiral that makes the first spiral available for healing and study? The prana scooped in by the pyramid shape gains coherence of energetic direction. The term upward spiraling light is an indication not of your up and down concept, but an indication of the concept of that which relates toward the source of love and light. And then I wrote, oh. So this upward spiraling light doesn't have anything to do with north, south, or up and down, or anything for us that would make any sense to us. It just has to do with moving toward source, moving toward love and light. Okay. Could I assume then that from all points in space, light radiates in our illusion outward in a 306-degree solid angle, and this scoop shape with the pyramid then creates the coherence to this radiation as focusing mechanism, as a focusing mechanism? Is that correct? This is precisely correct. Good job, Dawn. Then the first spiral has a different factor of cohesion, you might say, than the second. What is the difference between the first and the second spiral? As the light is funneled into what you term 0 position, it reaches the point of turning. This acts as a compression of the light, multiplying tremendously its coherence and organization. So as the spiral turns, it compresses and magnifies its coherence and organization. Then is the coherence and organization multiplied once more as the start of the second spiral? Is there just a doubling effect or an increasing effect? This is difficult to discuss in your language. There is no doubling effect, but a transformation across boundaries of dimension, so that light, which was working for those using it in space-time, time-space configuration, becomes light working in what you might consider an interdimensional time-space, space-time configuration. This causes an apparent diffusion and weakness of the spiraling energy. However, in position 2, as you have called it, much work may be done interdimensionally. So, not just within our own space and time, but into other dimensions. In the Giza pyramid, there was no chamber at position 2. Did you ever make use of position 2 by putting a chamber in that position, say on other planets or in other pyramids? This position is useful only to those whose abilities are such that they are capable of serving as conductors of this type of focused spiral. One would not wish to attempt to train third density entities in such disciplines. Ha ha. Us mere third density entities cannot do such a thing. Then the third spiral radiating from the top of the pyramid, you say, is used for energizing. Can you tell me what you mean by energizing? The third spiral is extremely full of the positive effects of directed prana, and that which is placed over such a shape will receive shocks energizing the electromagnetic fields. This can be most stimulating in third density applications of mental and bodily configurations. However, if allowed to be placed over long, such shocks may traumatize the entity. So remember, we're kind of talking about using the pyramid shape in a smaller form underneath of yourself, like under your head. That's what we were talking about previously in the last session Dawn was talking about. But the thing that I'm kind of thinking about is there's a lot of speculation from many various different types of people that the Great Pyramid and other pyramids were used as an basically a power source. And this information that Ra is sharing, even though Dawn's talking about it in a different context, that it's this, you know, perhaps a smaller pyramid or being inside of the pyramid, what they're explaining kind of does make it sound like it could be used as a power source. That the spiraling light as it comes out of the top of the pyramid is supercharged energy, that it could be used as a power source, you would imagine. So, you know, it fits with a lot of those theories, I think, that people have about the pyramid being a power source. Are there any other effects of the pyramid shape beside the spirals that we have just discussed? There are several. However, their uses are limited. The use of the resonating chamber position is one which challenges the ability of an adept to face the self. This is one type of mental test which may be used. It is powerful and quite dangerous. Why is it? Why is it? There's been multiple instances in pop culture, movies and television shows and whatnot. Two for example that I'm thinking of is the Neverending Story, when Atreyu is told that he's going to have to see his true self and that most people can't handle it. And just recently, we've been watching the new Avatar series, and there's an episode where they go into the spirit world, and the humans, Katara and Sokka, there's a possibility they might see their true selves, and then most people can't handle it. And here is Ra saying the same thing. That there's a chamber position, the resonating chamber position has the ability to make an adept face their self. And that's powerful and dangerous. But why? Facing our own selves. Why is facing our own selves such this scary, terrifying, horrific, can be traumatic, dangerous experience. Why is that? I don't know. The outer shell of the pyramid shape contains small vortices of light energy, which in the hands of capable crystallized beings are useful for various subtle workings upon the healing of invisible bodies affecting the physical body. So it's saying the outer shell of the pyramid shape can be used by crystallized people with crystallized chakras as a healing for invisible things that are affecting the body. That's what it sounds like. Other of these places are those wherein perfect sleep may be attained and age reversed. These characteristics are not important. What? Perfect sleep is not important. I beg to differ there, Ra. I'm not so worried about reversing age, but I know there's a ton of people who would think that that was also very important. Don says, what position would be the age reversal? And Ra tells him approximately 5 to 10 degrees above or below the Queen's Chamber position, in ovid shapes on each face of the four-sided pyramid, extending into the solid shape approximately 1/4 of the way to the Queen's Chamber position. Well, that sounds real complicated. I don't know how we're going to get those ovid shapes in this specific place of the pyramid. So we're just going to have to give up on the age reversal. In other words, if I went just inside the wall of the pyramid 1/4 of the way, but still remained 3/4 of the way from the center at approximately the level above the base of the Queen's Chamber, I would find that position? Don wants to know. This is approximately so. You must picture the double teardrop extending in both the plane of the pyramid face and in half towards the Queen's Chamber, extending above and below it. You may see this as the position where the light has been scooped into the spiral and then is expanding again. This position is what you may call a prana vacuum. So that's being scooped and it's also expanding. And that's a place where age can be reversed. Why would this reverse aging? Aging is a function of the effects of various electromagnetic fields upon the electromagnetic fields of the mind-body-spirit complex, the person. In this position, there is no input or disturbance of the fields, nor is any activity within the electromagnetic field complex of the mind-body-spirit complex allowed full sway. The vacuum sucks any such disturbance away. Thus, the entity feels nothing and is suspended. So you would be in a suspended state in that specific position of the pyramid. Weird. Is the pyramid shape that Jim has constructed in our yard functioning properly? Is it aligned properly and built properly? Of course, they built a frickin' pyramid in the yard. They spent all that time in like the last session or maybe the last 2 sessions talking about the materials they could use and how, it does not surprise me that Jim built a pyramid in the yard. It is built within good tolerances, though not perfect. However, its alignment should be as this resting place for maximum efficiency. Do you mean that one of the base sides should be aligned 20 degrees east of north? How did Don know that? From what Ra just said. Its alignment should be as this resting place? Like, how did Don figure out that that was 20 degrees east of north? I don't know. The alignment would be efficacious. Previously, you stated that one of the base sides should be aligned with magnetic north. Which is better, to align with magnetic north or to align with 20 degrees east of magnetic north? This is at your discretion. The proper alignment for you of this sphere at this time is magnetic north. However, in your query, you asked specifically about a structure which has been used by specific entities whose energy vortices are more consonant with the true color green orientation. This would be 20 degrees east of north. So Ra's saying that for them, the proper alignment would be magnetic north, but if you want to align with the true color green, which is like the heart chakra, right? That's 20 degrees east of north. There are advantages to each orientation. The effect is stronger at magnetic north and can be felt more clearly. The energy, though weak, comes from the now distant but soon to be paramount direction is more helpful. The choice is yours. It is the choice between quantity and quality, or wide band and narrow band aid in meditation. Okay. When the planetary axis realign, will they realign 20 degrees east of north to conform with the green vibration? There is every indication that this will occur. We cannot speak of certainties, but are aware that the grosser or less dense materials will be pulled into conformation with the denser and lighter energies, which give your logos its proceedings through the realms of experience. And then I said, huh? Let's read it one more time. So the question was, when the planetary axes realign, will they realign 20 degrees east of north to conform with green vibration? Which is a good question and makes a lot of sense, because if the fourth density is all about love, which is what Ra says, then it would make sense that it would be aligned with the green color green, the green vibration, because green's the heart chakra, right? So let's read this one more time to see if we can make more sense of it. There is every indication that this will occur. We cannot speak of certainties, but are aware that the grosser or less dense materials will be pulled into conformation. It's not confirmation, like it's conformation with the denser and lighter energies, which give your logos, which is like our planet, its proceedings through the realms of experience. I don't really know what they're talking about there. Don't have a frickin' clue. And that was session 59. So what did we talk about in this session? We talked about Jim being a wanderer. We were trying to figure out about the cycles again. There was a little bit of information about Maldek, that there's been a lot of mind, body, spirit complexes from the planet that blew up called Maldek that have been becoming part of our human experience here. And then Dawn wanted to know a lot more information about the pyramid shape, which was pretty much the rest of the session. So, a little hodgepodge of information there for session 59. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget there are videos that accompany this one. Before this, there are 3 other videos for this volume 2 book, but there is also the entirety of the volume 1 book in video format for you here as well. One of the goals of these videos is that it's treated kind of like a book club. So if you have read this book or you're following along with the videos, don't forget to comment and let's have a discussion about this material, because that's how we learn, is by discussing it together. Once again, thanks for watching, and look for the next installment of the Raw Contact Volume 2 to come out soon. Bye-bye!